Joining the show today is one of us by way of the 56th overall pick in the second round of the 2022 NHL Draft. Thanks for jumping on, Rieger Lorenz. Rieger, how are we doing, man?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. And weird question that we always kind of start with, bit of a Rorschach test. Minnesota Wild logo is very controversial, apparently. Like, there's a lot of debate online about what it actually is. First time you saw it, what'd you think it was?
That's funny. I remember kind of growing up, I didn't know what it was really. So it was kind of the Wild logo. But I remember getting drafted there, and I heard it was an animal. I kind of looked closer, and I thought it was a beaver actually for about a year. So like after I was drafted, I thought it was a beaver. Then I remember going to development camp, and someone said it was a bear. So I probably shouldn't be telling you guys that, but
yeah. No, we had someone say spaceship, so like you're okay, you're safe with that.
Like UFO, I think it was one of the guys mentioned it.
Beaver is like that. That's just too Canadian of you.
Yeah,
I know where you're from. So we're the our name of our podcast is Fellowship of the Rink, which I'm sure you can guess, Lord of the Rings fandom on our end. I wasn't sure if you're a Lord of the Rings fan or if you have kind of a nerd itch or something kind of quirky off ice that you're really into, a book series, movie series, or collectibles. Like, what's your thing like that?
Yeah, no, I've never really gotten to Lord of the Rings. I think growing up, my dad and I watched The Hobbit, those movies, so I enjoyed those. Last year, I actually got into Game of Thrones with some of my roommates.
Okay.
So I remember, around Christmas time there, we binge watched that pretty good. And I enjoyed that. But no, nothing really too quirky for me. I guess I'm more.
I don't know
if
if you're a South Park guy too, Rieger, but I've got a South Park and Game of Thrones crossover mug here, and those are like two of my favorite things.
That's awesome. Yeah, we got some guys on our team who love South Park. So
have you been out to Casa Bonita out there?
No, it's funny. We actually have some swimmers on our on the Denver swim team that have gone and performed there, I guess. So you hear about it a little bit, but no, I haven't gone out there.
Are they like the cliff jumpers or whatever?
Yeah, no, I think they jump from like 50 feet up in the air and stuff, which is
That's
crazy.
So cool.
Pretty brave.
Yeah.
You mentioned growing up, like who were the players that you looked up to growing up? Was it like a Braden Point? Even I know he's still kind of young. I guess you're young too, but who were the guys that you grew up, watching and kind of idolizing?
Yeah, I mean, I used to have some personal ties to kind of the Oilers organization, and my parents were from up north there, so I was always an Oilers fan growing up. Alex Hemsky was a guy when I was a little bit younger that I loved watching. Just he was so silky on the ice, the way he played the game. And then when I got a little bit older, Jordan Eberle obviously wears the same number as I do. That World Junior goal kind of solidified his spot in my heart as a young kid. So, those two kind of stick out for me.
Yeah, like posters on the wall in your room, or what was your getup of like,
yeah, no, I got a Jordan Eberle poster in my room. I got an Alex Hemsky jersey. So I was a pretty diehard Oiler fan back in the day.
Nice. Tell us then, Canadian boy, why college hockey?
Yeah, so my dad actually played college hockey for Notre Dame.
No kidding.
So I was kind of drawn towards that. He kind of knew the benefits of it. He went through it. Obviously, the mix of education and athletics there. So when I was going through the WHL draft thing, I think he always, made sure that he let me make my own decision, but he kind of made sure that I, knew the benefits of college hockey. And I think, I was obviously naturally, more inclined to go that route. And when Tavis and the DU coaching staff reached out to me before WHL draft, when I was, I think, 14 there, I think it was a no-brainer for me, just kind of knowing the pedigree of the program and kind of what they have to offer.
Cool. So go ahead.
So and obviously it seemed like a no-brainer at the time. Was there other schools that were interested, and like were there the ones that you were like at least wanted to like visit or check it out and see before making that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I was super young. I know a few schools reached out. I know Notre Dame, I think, reached out as well. Just because my dad was an alma mater there. But yeah, no, I think Denver reached out pretty early, and when I went down, saw like I said, what they have to offer with the coaching staff, the culture there, and just kind of the winning pedigree. Like I said, it was a no-brainer for me, and I was super excited to jump the gun.
Yeah, and with the new rules now for CHL to NCAA, like what do you think about all of that? And what do you have would have been a no-brainer for you to play in the WHL if that was the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to look back, I guess. I think I'm excited for it. I think it elevates college hockey in a really good way. I feel bad for some of the tier 2 junior organizations that might, kind of take a beating there a little bit. But yeah, no, I think honestly, looking back, I was super happy with my path. Obviously, I had my 16-year-old year in Okotoks there, and that was a COVID year, so we only played 7 games. But then I, got a full season, 17 there, which was my draft year. But I think, yeah, I mean, if I was going through it, I think my 17-year-old year there would have been a great opportunity to go play WHL. But yeah, no, it's hindsight's 2020, I guess.
What was your first impression of DC or David Carle as you in that? I know Tab and Milne was one who recruited you a lot, but what was your initial impression with him?
Yeah, just super professional. The year that I committed there was his first year coaching, and I think he would have been younger than 30, which is crazy to think about.
28,
But
yeah.
yeah, no, but he's super professional. He knows the game really well. He connects with the players. I'm kind of using his age to his advantage there. No, he's awesome. He's kind of the main reason why I committed to Denver.
Does anybody ever call him coach? Is it like how did DC? Does he just say that the first time you meet him, like, hey, just call me DC? Like, it seems like everybody I've talked to from his early years did not just call him DC.
Yeah, no, it's all DC. I think, and that kind of speaks to the way that he kind of is viewed in the room. He's more a mentor and kind of a coach second. So yeah.
And when you guys on campus, like, I know there's a few different spots that I think Zeev mentioned before, but like, what's your go-to spot? What are your places that it's a beautiful place to live, of course, if you want to be adventurous, like out in the mountains, but like, what are your some go-to campus spots that you would certainly miss if you had decided to go pro?
Yeah, I think we're so lucky to have a campus here in a city like Denver. We go to some other places like St. Cloud in Minnesota, and it's a little tougher there. There's not as much to do. But I think some places stick out would be like Illegal Pete's, Spanky, just some restaurants that guys, after the games go and hang out at, and yeah.
So I mean, you're gonna talk down on St. Cloud, which is actually already ingratiating you as a Minnesotan. Like, what about Minnesota? You were out here for the national championship. Obviously, a lot of fun memories go with that. But like, anything just about being out here in Minnesota that you're like, oh, it's gonna be kind of cool to come back here.
Yeah, I think it's just the way that hockey is kind of viewed in that state. I remember it was pretty eye-opening going there for my first development camp. Just how intense the fans are, and how well that team's supported. So I think it's super exciting and super motivating for me in the coming years to make sure I get to that level.
Yeah, and what guys like at the dev camp? Is anyone that stood out as like just like really cool guys you're excited to see again, or guys you could see yourself playing with?
I think my first year, the two guys that stood out would be Ogren and Yurov. They were obviously first rounders my year. So just kind of, benchmarking myself against them, kind of, what I need to improve on, to get to that level and hopefully, live out my dream one day.
What's your most vivid memory of the draft for you?
So I actually didn't get to go to the draft. I was stuck here. I had to do summer school. So my parents actually came. We got a hotel, and my girlfriend came down as well, and we watched the draft on a laptop. So I don't know. Just honestly, I think after I got drafted, my dad started tearing up. And I don't really see him do that too much. So that was a pretty vivid memory for me. Just all the hard work they've put in. To see that kind of come to fruition was pretty special.
Did you think the Wild were going to be taking you? Like, what were the interviews like pre-draft?
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously in a spot in the draft where I think like a lot of teams could have taken me. So I think I had 27 interviews at the combine. So I didn't have too good an idea, where I was going to go in the draft or to what team. But I knew I had a really good interview with Billy G in the Wild, so I knew that was a possibility. And obviously, once it happened, I was super happy and on top of the world.
Any like weird stunts or quirky moves from Billy? Like someone said he was hiding behind a curtain and popped out. Like any funny stories from him or any of the other teams you met with?
No, nothing from Billy. We just kind of went in there, shook hands, and then went along with the interview. But I remember the Avs. I walked in there, and they had a big garbage can out in the other side of the room. We had to throw a saltwater taffy in it. So I guess to get the competitive juices flowing before the interview to see how I'd react. But that was kind of one that stood out for me.
How big was the garbage can?
It was a normal size garbage can. It wasn't too big. I remember not doing too well. I was pretty nervous. So
you mentioned your dad obviously tearing up at the time getting drafted, and having a guy who played, in your family like that had to be such a big benefit growing up. Like, was he a coach for you a lot, or like what was the kind of influence that he had kind of with you?
Yeah, we're super close. He's been almost like my personal coach throughout my whole life. You know, him and my mom have sacrificed so much for me. I remember my mom, you know, she hasn't worked since I was, you know, 4 or 5, and her whole life, you know, pretty much been getting me to practice and games and stuff like that. And my dad with kind of a busy work schedule. You know, he rarely missed a practice or a game, and if he did, my mom was, you know, videoing it for him. You know, so I'm super grateful for you know those two, and I wouldn't be here, you know, without their, you know, love and support. Yeah, no, my dad, I couldn't say enough good things about, you know, where he's gotten me to in my hockey career. He's got a very, you know, similar view to me and what kind of player I can be. And you know, after every game, we're chatting and kind of, you know, scheming how to get to the next level. So yeah, no, just super fortunate to have a dad and a mom like that.
What kind of player do you guys envision yourself you being? You know, I think you mentioned, like, when I talked to you a couple months ago, just working on your two-way game and stuff, like what kind of style of player do you think, you know, when you're the finished product with Minnesota, you'd be?
This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle Golf. Waggle Golf believes what you wear on the course should reflect your individuality, who you are, where you're from, your hobbies, interests, and passions. All the stuff that makes you, well, you. That's why every design is inspired by the desire to create a piece of apparel that strikes a chord when you see it, that makes you say, wow, that was made for me. Because in a lot of ways, it was. Ready to get your waggle on? Go to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 at checkout to take 10% off your entire order.
Yeah, I think, you know, coming out of junior, I think I remember teams asked me at the combine. I did a lot of things well, but I didn't really have a, you know, identity as a player. I think, you know, my 2.5, 3 years here at Denver, I've really kind of turned into a power forward, you know, a two-way power forward, and I credit that to, you know, DC and the coaching staff. But yeah, no, I think, yeah, in the next, you know, next year and a half here before I turn pro, you know, I'd love to just kind of, you know, really kind of relish what DC has to offer, and you know, really tune up my two-way game, and you know, hopefully be ready to make that next jump.
And I know the Wild are pretty patient with their prospects. Is it kind of the plan for you to finish up at Denver, or, like, you know, next year and a half and work on it versus signing earlier and starting your pro hockey career?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I think I still have a lot of development here. Obviously, it's been a little bit individually, a little bit of a frustrating season, production wise. You know, I look back and watch some games last year, and I have a lot more of an impact this year than I did last year on the games. Just, you know, the pucks aren't going in for me right now. You know, I think, you know, coming back one more year, you know, elevating my role on the team, and will be super beneficial to me, and will serve me better in the long run.
And I got to say, man, I was sitting right on that corner at the X when you scored that absolute snipe in the championship game. Like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I remember. I still don't really remember like the goal or anything. You know, I go back and watch the highlights, and it's pretty cool. But no, just yeah, that championship was, you know, with my best friends, was, you know, the greatest time of my life. You know, the 2 weeks ensuing were also, you know, pretty fun. The celebrations here on campus. But no, yeah, I get chills every time I think about it, and we're hoping to do it again this April.
What was the coolest part of the celebration, either at the X or back on campus? Because I love those things. There's multiple celebrations going after a game like that.
Yeah, no, I think the thing that sticks out for me, after we won, obviously we were on top of the world, in the dressing room and stuff, and we're kind of looking on our phones, and there was like parades and stuff going on here on campus. Like there was a SWAT team here, on the roads, because there were so many people. So it was pretty cool to see, you know, the campus and the school behind us, you know, supporting us in the way that they do.
Nice. I'm going to need the inside track, by the way. If you guys do go back to back, I'm going to need to know where the after party is in St. Louis. So you'll have to slip that over to us somehow.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a text.
Tell you.
Go ahead, sorry, Todd.
We've had him on before. I know Wild fans know a lot about him because of all the excitement last year being drafted. What can you tell us that maybe we don't know about Zeev Buium?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously he's so fun to watch, and he's a special kid. You know, I remember when he came in on his freshman year. Not that the draft rankings really mean anything, but he was supposed to go kind of that early second, kind of in the 30s or whatever. Which is obviously he'd be a good player for us, and we were excited to have him. I remember skating with him a little bit, and obviously no one's really, you know, trying that hard in summer skates, like when you're playing games or whatever in that early summer. I remember he was ramping up to go to World Juniors, and we did kind of a one-on-one skate with Power Edge Pro stuff, those little like apparatuses on the ice there. And I like to think I'm pretty good at that stuff. But I remember, him going through it with, his speed and finesse. And it was mind blowing to me. So I remember calling my dad saying this kid's not going to go in the 30s. He was going to be a first rounder. And obviously, he proved that that coming season too. I think he had, I don't know the exact stat line, but around 50 points as a true freshman, draft eligible. And he hasn't really stopped it this year either. So we're super happy to have him. He's a great kid. He's a close friend of mine, and yeah, I couldn't say enough good things about him.
I think he played like 35 minutes one game or something like that. I saw. Like, you ever look at him like, holy crap, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, he's so effortless on the ice, so like it makes sense. But I couldn't play 35. I guess I'm a forward, but I can't even imagine playing 60% of the game.
No, we're friends now, Rieger. We're cool, so I can ask you a not fun question.
Yeah.
What's it like for you and the boys? Like, how do you rebound and move forward after a tough showing against a club team in UNLV? Like, what's it like in the locker room after a game like that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, at the end of the day, like I don't think we played that bad. To be honest with you, I think we had 70 shot attempts. Their goal is in their head. Obviously, first game back from Christmas, not to make excuses, but we're a little bit rusty. I think, yeah, it was tough for us as a group, honestly. I think a lot of guys stayed off social media for the ensuing days. But I think in the long run, I think it'll make us better as a team. I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I know it was, it's a big deal for them, and they played well and they deserve to win. But for us, I mean, it doesn't really deviate from, what we want to accomplish at the end of the year, and it hasn't really.
How much is this year's team different? A different feel than last year's group. Obviously, it's hard to compare when you win a championship and you lose a bunch of guys from that team. Like, how is this team or this season different for you?
Mm-hmm. I think that's the beauty about college hockey. Every year you lose key guys, and other guys need to step up in big ways, and I think we've had that so far. Last year we're wagging offensively. I don't think we have the firepower necessarily offensively as we did last year, but I think our defensive game can elevate from what it even was last year. So I'm super excited. It's a different team and a different feel, but I think we can have the same success come April.
I think DC mentions every one of his championship teams. He looks at the adversity that they faced during the season and kind of points to that as kind of a reason why they ended up where they did. And I think was the UNLV thing the adversity, or was there other games or other stretches of the season for you that kind of felt like that one pinnacle moment where it was more you can go one way or the other way?
Yeah, I mean, the UNLV wasn't fun. I think, although January and kind of the first little bit of February, we couldn't really sweep teams. We played really well Friday night. The other team would elevate their game going into Saturday, and I don't think we would really follow. So we've shown growth in that, and that was kind of a hard stretch for us, but we've gone through it, and I think we're better for it.
I mean, good news is the rest of the way, it's all one gamers, so you don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
Oh, what do you do like off the ice? Is there other sports? Do you golf? Do you disc golf? Do you do anything? What are your other favorite passions, like other than hockey off the ice?
Yeah, during the year it's pretty much just hockey and school. Our schedules are pretty packed that way. In the summer, I go to British Columbia. I'm lucky enough my family has a lake house there. I love to fish, surf, golf out there. So kind of all the normal things that the hockey players like to do.
Nice. Well,
I don't know if you're allowed to do skiing or surfing, like with the injuries like that. I don't know, like are certain things you're not allowed to do, or certain things you're like they give you free reign to do whatever.
Yeah, I know kind of during winter break, some guys showed us some interest in going skiing or snowboarding up in the mountains here, and I think that was a little bit frowned upon. Just got a little dangerous, so probably stay away from that.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. But surfing is totally cool?
Yeah, I think surfing's cool. It's pretty low impact.
Okay. I don't know. I've seen people get tossed pretty hard.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You've been to Red Rocks at all? You've been to any of the, like, you guys go on any trips? Like, I know Zeev mentioned you guys want to see a concert there at some point.
Yeah, no, we went and watched Riley Green, the country artist, there last spring after we won. So that was super cool. Yeah, like I said, we're so fortunate to have be in Denver. There's so many things to do in the spring and summer. That it's awesome.
Is that the go-to country, or are you a pretty wide music supporter?
Yeah, I think before games I like a little bit of rap, but I think for the most part, normal day I'm listening to country usually.
Like, what's the go-to rap song that you need to hear right before you go out on the ice?
I don't mind some Kanye before we go out on the ice. Just be going a little bit.
Final question, brought to you as always by our good friends at Waggle Golf.
First, make sure you head over to getyourwaggleon.com, throw in promo code SP10 to take 10% off your entire order. If you could pick 3 people, could be celebrity, athlete, dead or alive, whatever, make up dream golf foursome, go out for a day. Who are the 3 you're bringing out there, and where are you guys going to go play?
Oh man, I think Augusta is the place to be. I'd say that's an easy one. I'd say, man, maybe Paul Biznat. One, just the personality, and his sure has some good stories. I'd say Riley Green's probably up there too. Actually, he's my favorite country guy, so he'd be up there. He's a good looking guy too. So, and then oh man, probably go Kobe Bryant. Just read a Kobe Bryant book, and he's an interesting dude. So, I think that those would be my 3 that I'd play with.
Who'd be in your cart? Who'd be the one you'd ride with?
Oh man, I think Biz. I think we'd have some good combos.
What do you think about just like Biz's impact on hockey of late?
No, I think, growing up, I think hockey was very, a professional kind of atmosphere, especially like in broadcasting and stuff. I think he's kind of brought a fun aspect to it. I think that brings a lot more, viewers and kinds of viewers to hockey, which obviously grows the game. And it's, good for all of us. So, I think he's been awesome for the game.
Well, great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. I know it's a busy week heading into some more playoff action. So thanks again for taking the time, and we'll look forward to potentially, seeing you in St. Louis down the road here. So
awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.